Their opportunistic bets with Sam Mendelson. I'm your host, Sam Mendelson, wearing my green heads up Concussion Advocacy Network shirt with my Dallas Cowboys hat. And what a week it was, folks. The Cowboys, Micah Parsons, some people are comparing him to Lawrence Taylor. Micah Parsons and the Dallas Cowboys come away with the win 27-20. They covered the 6 points thanks to that blocked extra point. And what an absolute thrill that was. But the whole week was thrilling. I mean, it was a week of favorites that won. I mean, you looked at Tennessee, they dominated the Jacksonville Jaguars. I mean, I think it's fair to say Urban Meyer, one and done. You're done, Urban Meyer. That's not in the cards. But just another big week. The Packers covered 11 and a half. The Seahawks covered their big spread against Houston. New Orleans, I told you they were going to cover the Jets, and they did that. So here we are going into week 15. And what's crazy about week 15 is I readjust my Cowboys hat. All right, there we go. Is we have one game on Thursday, a huge AFC West game. The Chiefs and the Chargers in SoFi Stadium, where obviously the Super Bowl is going to be. And then two games on Saturday, but they're two massive AFC games, with the first game being the Vegas Raiders coming off another loss last week, a blowout loss to the Chiefs, going to the Dog Pound, where it seems like COVID is running rampant in the Dog Pound, as it seems like everyone is out for Cleveland. I mean, Roger Goodell announced today that game is still taking place, even though Baker Mayfield and Jarvis Landry and two of their own linemen and Austin Hooper and a couple defensemen are all out of that game. And then the big game, arguably maybe the best game of the week, you got the Patriots coming off a bye week against the Colts coming off a bye week, and both teams right now in a playoff hunt. And just a quick aside, I put in a bet last week, and I won big. And I'm just going to share you that bet. And even though that they weren't all my 8 picks, you got to be opportunistic. You got to do it. So we took Seattle -8 on the road against Houston. That's a favorite. That's a dub. That's one in the books. We took an 18 parlay to win a couple grand, and boy, did we cash out big. Then we took the Denver Broncos -12.5 in the RIP Demaryius Thomas day. That one hits against the Detroit Lions. We took the Saints -5.5. Taysom Hill, just a huge day against the Jets, no surprise. The Cowboys -6. The Chiefs -9.5. The Chargers -9 against the Giants. Then we had the Buccaneers -2.5. That game looked so good until it wasn't good, until overtime. And that's what happens with betting. One half, your team is up by 20. The spread's 7.5. You're loving life. You're going, this is amazing. All of a sudden, a turnover or this and a punt return. And anyways, the game goes to overtime. Tom Brady throws it for his 700th total touchdown. A pass to Brashard Perryman, who didn't catch a single pass for 4 quarters and caught the overtime pass that won them the game. We're coming down to the final game, Sunday night. We had Green Bay 11.5, and it was 14-3 Chicago, and then 27-21 at half. And I'm like, should we cash out? No, you let it ride, and we let it ride. That's why I'm wearing green. Green Bay coming through, winning by 15, covering that 11.5 points on Sunday Night Football. And there's a reason why he owns the Chicago Bears. It's because he does things like that. He's just had a crazy, crazy game, and I walk away with a huge win. So shout out to just being opportunistic. That's why I put it up here in the title. Opportunistic bets. And now I can't find the title. But you know what I'm saying. You got to be opportunistic when it comes to betting. So let's bring us down to week 15. Let's look at the 8 best games. And my first game that I'm going to pick is going to be a bit of a shock. But I'm taking the Arizona Cardinals. When I say big shock, I'm obviously being sarcastic. Arizona is -13.5 on the road against Detroit. Now you're saying, Sam, why are you taking the Arizona Cardinals? They're just coming off an emotional home loss on Monday night. It's a short field. Detroit, that's a lot of points. But I'm going to tell you, this is Arizona's Cardinals team that knows that their spot for the division is right around the corner. You got San Fran creeping up. You got the Rams right there. The Rams are 9-4. Now the tiebreaker I think is the same right now as they both split a match, so it's going to come down to interdivision games. And if they're tied at that, it's going to come to interconference. I've talked a lot about last week about get right games. Russell Wilson got right. Dak Prescott on the offense didn't get right as much as I thought. The Saints got right defensively. They looked good. The Chiefs put up 40 burger. They looked great. So I'm going to stick on that trend. It worked dividends for me as I won big. But so I'm taking the Arizona Cardinals minus 13.5 on the road against the Lions. I mean, it's clear to say that, the Detroit Lions, they've got Jamal Williams on COVID. Questionable if he's going to play. They've got DeAndre Swift out with a shoulder injury, probably not going to play. So those are the two best talents offensively without throwing TJ Hawkinson into that mix. And defensively, I think even though DeAndre Hopkins was announced this today that he's out for the rest of the regular season, I think Kyler Murray knows that he let his team down. There was a miscommunication at the end. He didn't play his best football. Yes, the Rams defense are good, but it was a really tough game, not your typical Kyler Murray game. So fantasy owners who have Kyler Murray, you're going to go off this week. It could be a defensive start too, where they get a couple defensive touchdowns. I love Arizona by 13.5 points. I don't even have to lose a point. I'm taking Arizona by 2 touchdowns. Then, my second game of the week, I'm sticking with Big D. Now, I got Big D at minus 8.5, so I'm going to put them at minus 8.5. But right now, the spread is minus 10.5. If you can see that right there. If I shift a little bit, maybe that's better. There you go. I got Dallas minus 8.5. Maybe if I change the color of the font. Maybe if it was white. Let's see if that works. Okay, that's better actually. Damn. We're just doing some quick edits on the run. Anyways, Dallas minus 8.5, division game. So much at stake for the Dallas Cowboys this week. They can clinch the division, which guarantees them a home playoff spot. But all of a sudden, you look at some of the teams around them, and they're right in there in terms of competing for a top spot. You don't want to have to go up against the Rams in the first week of the playoffs. They are a bad matchup when they're not healthy. All you need on the field is number 99, Aaron Donald. You saw what he did last Monday or a couple days ago. 3 sacks, the game-winning sack to seal the deal against Kyler Murray. He is an absolute force, and even as good as the Dallas Cowboys offensive line is, it's not going to be good enough. So Dallas Cowboys 9-4, they're in 4th place. They got the Bucks, the Packers, and the Cardinals all in front of them at 10-3. And the Cowboys do play the Cardinals in a few weeks. So if you can keep up with the Cardinals and then you beat the Cardinals at home in week 17, all of a sudden you don't have to play in that Ford matchup, and you face a team like Minnesota or San Fran or Washington. A lot better matchup than going up against Aaron Donald. So Dallas Cowboys, they're going up against the New York Giants in New York. Now, New York always puts up a good effort in New York, especially when they're facing the Cowboys. No more Jason Garrett, though, so there's no, former head coach. Dallas already whooped their butt last time they played in Big D, in Jerry's world. And right now, the starting quarterback is Mike Glennon. I know Daniel Jones is working himself back from a neck injury, but you saw how they played against the Chargers. I mean, defensively, they looked all out of place. I think offensively, they have 2 solid running backs, and obviously Saquon Barkley and Devontae Parker. And 8.5 points is really a touchdown and a field goal. The way that defense is playing, I mean, my oh my, they had 4 interceptions 2 weeks ago on a Thursday night game against the New Orleans Saints. Last week, they had a total of 1 interception, 3 forced fumbles, and 5 sacks. This is a defense. I mean, if you would have asked me before the year, who was going to take Dallas to the promised land? Who's going to be the reason why Dallas is going to be the playoffs? It's going to be Dak. It's going to be CeeDee Lamb. It's going to be Amari Cooper. It's going to be that offense. Boy, was I wrong. They drafted Micah Parsons 10th overall. People are already comparing him to LT. It's insane how good he is. 12 sacks. LT won Defensive Rookie of the Year and Defensive Player of the Year with 9.5 sacks in his rookie year. Micah Parsons already shy of that. It's already in the rearview mirror. So the Cowboys, defensively, Doesn't really matter who's across from them. They're going to create havoc. They're going to create pressure. They're getting turnovers. They're a bend but not break. And quite frankly, they're the reason the Dallas Cowboys are as good as they are this year. So I'm taking the Cowboys. Maybe I'm biased. Sure, we already know that. But I'm riding with the Cowboys. Division game. It might be a lot of points, 8.5. I'm sticking with them. Then my third one, I'm going to go Buffalo. Again, just bear with me for 1 second as I just do a quick little edit. There, Buffalo, okay. I'll put that one over here. Buffalo -3. Buffalo -10.5. Now, you're saying, Sam, Buffalo hasn't looked good in a few weeks, but they went in a crazy win game against the. Oh, can I do it here or no? I think it's gonna. The light's in the way, so just bear with me. Okay, there we go. I'll leave it like that. Buffalo -10.5. I got them at 10.5. You could get them down to 9.5 if you want to cover the 10 points. Carolina is a mess, and as good as that defense is, Buffalo needs a statement game. So Josh Allen willed his team back on one ankle against the top rush defense. Had 100 yards rushing, had over 300 yards passing, and had he got the ball back over and overtime, there's a good chance he could have won that game. But unfortunately for him, as much as Green Bay and Aaron Rodgers own Chicago Bears right now, Tom Brady has always owned the Bucs, whether he was in New England or now in Tampa Bay, it looks like. So Buffalo 10.5. I just think they need to have a statement game. Carolina going from warm weather to cold weather. It's going to be cold in Buffalo. I think Sam Darnold's playing quarterback. I honestly could not tell you. They had a rotation. I've never seen that. We're not talking about a starting pitcher coming in baseball and then a reliever. We're talking about Cam Newton played one drive, PJ Walker played the other. Cam Newton played the third drive, PJ Walker played the fourth drive. I don't know what they're doing. They fired Joe Brady. Matt Rule, don't know what he's doing right now, although I do like him. Defensively, they've got a lot of great players, but they also have a few of their players on the COVID list. Buffalo needs a good get-right game. And boy, oh boy, can they do it at home. And I think that they win by 2 touchdowns. So I'm going to take the Buffalo Bills -10.5 at home against the Carolina Panthers. Then I'm going with the team that everyone thought was dead. The Miami Dolphins. The Dolphins playing against the Jets. I got them at -9.5, so they're covering that 10. I know I'm going with some big spreads. And yes, I know I'm going with the favorites, but I went through the favorites last week, and it worked for me, so I'm going with them again. The Dolphins, 1-7. They've won 5 in a row. They're somehow in the playoff picture. Somehow, if they win out and certain things happen, they still have a chance of coming first in the AFC. That's how insane the Dolphins are. I've always been a fan of Brian Flores. I really like their defense. They put a lot of money a few years ago into their defense. Brian Jones and Xavier Howard. They drafted a really good rookie in Phillips. But Tua's starting to get things going. I love his connection with his former Alabama receiver, Jalen Waddle. They've been fantastic. Devontae Parker's back. He's healthy. Myles Gaskin, he's dealing with COVID. He may or may not play. It doesn't even really matter. I would run just Wildcat all day long. And then Tua has just been more efficient every week and week. And the Jets, we can say they're a lost cause. Between the Mike White experiment and Josh Johnson playing and Joe Flacco playing and Zach Wilson and all these things, the Jets just aren't a good team. Yes, they screwed me in my suicide pool many weeks ago when I took the Bengals to beat them on the road or in New York, and they lost. So maybe I have an anti-New York Jet gut feeling, but I'm sticking with Miami. I like what Tua's been doing. He's been moving the ball down officially. I really like him and Jalen Waddle. Jalen Waddle's getting over 10 targets a game. I'm really liking that for my fantasy as well. But I really like the Dolphins, 9.5. I think the defense at home steps up big. I mean, ever since that game against Baltimore, it seems like defensively, they've really turned things around. Guys are more motivated. They're heated. They're coming off a bye week. Brian Flores coming off a bye week. He's done really well so far in his career. I know he's only been a coach for a couple years, but he's also been under Bill Belichick for many years, so he knows what to do off a bye week. The team is playing really well right now. They know that they have a chance. They can't afford to slip up. It could be a bit of a trap game, but I think coming off a bye week, I think they'll be well rested. And I'll get you the other 4 following this commercial.
12-ounce Sports has a new home for betting. BetUS.com is the official place to place your bets and support 12-ounce Sports. All you have to do is go to BetUS.com and type in the promo code 120Z and you'll instantly get a deposit bonus. This is America's favorite sports book. And remember, always gamble responsibly.
All right, we're back. Just a quick recap. I'm taking the Cardinals minus 13.5 against Detroit on the road. I'm taking Dallas in the division on the road against the Giants. I'm taking Buffalo minus 10.5 at home against the Panthers. I'm taking Miami in the division minus 9.5. So yes, I'm going with the favorites, and let us continue with that trend. I've got the Bengals plus 2.5 here. Really like that game. Yes, I'm honestly was all aboard the Denver Broncos last week, and I mean rightfully so. I don't know if you can see that there. Okay, I'll just leave it as is. Rightfully so. Demaryius Thomas, they're at home again. Obviously a tough place to play in Mile High, but I saw enough in Joe Burrow against the San Francisco 49ers, a defense that is, in my opinion, better right now than the Denver Broncos. Come up with a huge second half, sending the game to overtime. I mean, it was all San Francisco. It was 20-6 with about 10 minutes left, and Joe Burrow finds Ja'Marr Chase in the end zone twice. And Joey B absolutely is a stud, and I honestly love what they're doing. They also know that if you look at the Bengals schedule very quickly, I'm just going to pull it up here. 7-6. They're third in the AFC. They've got the Broncos this week in Denver, at home to the Ravens, who are all banged up, at home to the Chiefs, and at home to the Browns. So they control their destiny, but this is definitely the easiest of their 4 games that remain. They've swept Pittsburgh for the first time in over a decade. They've beaten Baltimore in Baltimore. That never happens. And right now, they have an opportunity that they just can't squander. Yes, they're a young team under a young coach in Zach Taylor with a great up-and-coming quarterback, with a receiver in Ja'Marr Chase and T. Higgins, and an incredible running back in Joe Mixon. I think that itself could take the ball away, because we know what Denver likes to do. They run the ball with Javonte Williams, and they run the ball with Melvin Gordon. Teddy Bridgewater, on what he hopes to be third and short, can just throw a quick pass to Noah Fant or Tim Patrick or Cortland Sutton or Jerry Jeudy. He's got weapons, and defensively they make plays. They get stops, and they get turnovers, and they get their ball in good possession. Joey B is definitely going to struggle, but I'll take them plus 2.5. If you can get them at plus 3.5, even better. But I like the Bengals this week. I like Joey B. I'm going to take the better quarterback in the situation. Ja'Marr Chase is an absolute stud. If it wasn't for Mac Jones and what he's doing in New England, he's definitely the offensive rookie of the year. I think that there's going to be an argument made that Mac Jones, who's a quarterback in a quarterback-driven league, is deserving of that award. But Ja'Marr Chase has some of the most incredible rookie stats I've ever seen. I'm just going to quickly pull up his stats on the year. 60 receptions for 1,035 rushing yards, 10 touchdowns receiving. He's also ran a couple in too. What's his rushing? Ja'Marr Chase. No, he has not rushed one in. So he's got 10 touchdowns. Still very good, near the top echelon, and a guy that the Bengals are just going to build around with him and Joey B. I absolutely love the Bengals this week. I think they cover 2.5. If you get them at 3.5, even better. It's going to be a low-scoring game. Probably going to be like that 2017 range. It's not going to be a lot of scoring, but I think Bengals do enough to just get the win. If you want to take them on the money line as well, I would venture and go that route, but I'm going to play it safe, and I'm going to take the Bengals plus 2.5. Then I got the Rams. The Rams against the Seattle Seahawks, and boy, oh boy, did they have a coming out party. And you could say they already have. I mean, they're the Rams. I mean, they're a top team in the league for a reason. But on the road, without Jalen Ramsey, without Higbee, without their running back Darrell Henderson, with the offense, the way it's been struggling and really been hurting as of late. Take away that Jacksonville game, not this past week, but in week 13, they've not looked at all sorts. But Odell Beckham's starting to get the ball. He's got touchdowns in consecutive weeks. Cooper Kupp might be the best receiver on third down to move the chains I've seen all year, in the NFL. Maybe Devontae Adams you can make the argument for. But I would argue that Cooper Kupp is having a more stellar year. I mean, look at these numbers for Cooper Kupp. Leading in receiving touchdowns with 12. Leading in receiving yards with over 1,489, close to 1,500. The next person that's close to him is Justin Jefferson, 200 yards shorter. So just an absolute, he is, and if you 113 receptions, it's just insane. It's absolutely insane. And then, as I mentioned earlier, you got Aaron Donald, number 99, the absolute force in the middle. He always seems to have Seattle's number, and Seattle has not been a good team. Even against Houston, they struggled for most of the first half. I think the second half, they turned it around a little bit. They covered because they had a couple turnovers, but it was 16-13 at half against Houston in like a must-get-right game. And then they outscored them 17-0 in the rest of the way in the second half. But Seattle has not looked good this year. Something wrong with Russell Wilson or the way that Pete Carroll has got that defense with Jamal Adams up for the year. I'm taking the Rams 6.5. I think that's a really good call. I think Sean McVay better coach than Pete Carroll. I think Matt Stafford at home likes to play at home, has some really good numbers this year at home. It's inside the division. I know that. But this is a Rams team who's always had Seattle's number, and especially Russell Wilson's. Earlier in the year, Seattle faced the Rams, and the Rams won 26-17, and just really held Russell Wilson to 150 yards before he left the game with a hand injury. So I like the Rams this week. I think the Rams cover easily. Moving on to number 7, I'm going to take the Pack. Green Bay Packers. I have them at -5 on the road against the Baltimore Ravens. Now, here's the thing, folks. Lamar Jackson's questionable, but even if he plays, he is banged up. He has not looked good defensively, though. This whole year, they've lost players like Marlon Humphrey and another cornerback, Marcus Peters. They've lost him, J.K. Dobbins and Gus Edwards and all the running backs that they lost. They've been a makeshift team all year, and there's a reason why, they're where they are right now is because they've got Lamar Jackson and they got a great coach in Harbaugh. The Packers, though, right now are the top team in the NFC. You can question all you want. You can say it's Tampa Bay. You can say this. Aaron Rodgers, even with a bum toe or a bum, we're playing on 9 toes. This guy is an absolute tour de force. You throw in Devontae Adams, Aaron Jones, and A.J. Dillon, and then you look at that defense, and that defense just knows how to play well fundamentally. They struggled at times against Chicago. I think Chicago was playing outside of its head. They got a punt return. They got a lot of things working out, but Green Bay's defense also got a pick 6 in that game. And I think if Tyler Huntley starts, it's a no-brainer. I think if you can take him right now at -5, do that, because the spread might just go up if Lamar's not playing. It probably will, actually. So right now would be the time I would take Green Bay. I really think it's my lock of the week. I think Green Bay on the road. It's never easy playing on the road in the NFL, especially in a place like Baltimore where there's definitely home field advantage. But Baltimore, for some reason this year, the one thing, they've been great against the run. Number 1 against the run. So Aaron Jones, A.J. Dillon, definitely going to struggle unless they get some screen passes or quick passes. But they give up big plays. I just see Devontae Adams with a couple of big 30-yard catches. I think Lazard and I think Valdez-Scantling also get a big touchdown as well. So Green Bay -5. Again, I'm going with mostly the favorites, but there's a definite reason why I'm doing that. I think that Rodgers is arguably the MVP again. I mean, him and Tom Brady. I mean, those are the two guys that are on a collision course as of right now in the NFC Championship once again in Lambeau. It's almost set up that way. I'm hoping that these guys can figure it out. Arizona definitely they have a horse in the race, but gotta go with number 12, Aaron Rodgers. So that's my seventh pick, and then my eighth pick. I'm taking Tampa Bay. I took a -9.5 at home. It's a Sunday nighter game, and the reason I'm doing that is because they kind of got embarrassed, or they did get embarrassed when Trevor Siemian came in for Jameis Winston, and they beat down New Orleans. Tampa Bay knows they win this week, they clinch the division. They want to get it in the books. They want to be able to have the ability to kind of maybe rest players, especially with everything that's going on with COVID. You want to have the ability to know that, like, hey, we win this game, and we're guaranteed our division, and there's nothing that could go wrong. And Tom Brady's just looked so good this year. And even at home, he's just on a whole nother level. He threw a pass, which passed Drew Brees for the most completions. It was like falling back. He was being, about to be sacked, and he was lobbed it in the air to the only place on the field where Mike Evans could catch it. And Mike Evans just 2 feet, golden. He runs it in for a touchdown. Tom Brady, TB12, Tampa Bay, whatever you want to call him. I thought about some of the other games out there. I think Minnesota against Chicago on the road. Never know what to expect, but obviously Minnesota, Dalvin Cook looked fantastic last Thursday against Pittsburgh. San Fran against Atlanta. I think San Fran's definitely a much better team. And then there's the Saturday games, which I would love to take Cleveland, but there's too many COVID situations. If Case Keenum is starting, I just don't know if I love it. And even tomorrow's game, you got the Chiefs and the Chargers. I'd probably lie some money on the over. The over right now is 50.5. And I think even with the Chiefs defense being as stout as it's been over the last 7-8 weeks, I think that this is going to be a high scoring game, like a 28-24 thing. So I definitely think 50.5 is not a problem. But when I was just looking at it, I was just wanting to do spreads this week, because I did it last week. I told you earlier, I won a little bit of money. Tom Brady, I mean, at home, he's been absolutely dynamo. Like, just an absolute stud. And, they've put up 410 points this year. Most of that's come from home. I mean, I'm looking at their schedule right now, and they beat Buffalo at home. They beat the Giants at home. They lost to Washington on the road. What games did they lose? They lost to the Saints on the road, and they lost to the Rams on the road. So they haven't lost at home yet, and I don't think that's going to happen. And I think that New Orleans, even with Taysom Hill, who adds a lot of wrinkles, even with Kamara, this is a team with Vita Vea. I mean, the most underrated player in the league. Outside if you maybe want to put Justin Tucker, because I'm not a big kicker guy, but he's the best kicker. He's like almost automatic in overtime. If you get him a chance over the 50-yard line, like he'll hit this field goal we started against Detroit earlier this year. But Vita Vea, who has this thing now where Tom Brady's being announced or being interviewed after the game, where he tries to take off his equipment. He struggled a couple weeks ago, and everyone made a meme out of it. And then last week he did, and he looked at the camera and goes, I did it! Vita Vea is the absolute number one run stopper. And I'm throwing in Aaron Donald in that case. Aaron Donald is incredible at running the passer. He is a disruptor. He is a guy that is double-teamed, and he's a guy that is obviously the best defensive player in the league for a reason. But Vita Vea, who gets no credit at all for what he does on the field, he just breaks tackles and then swallows up running backs. Just absolutely swallows up running backs. He's going to do it to Taysom Hill. He's going to do it to Kamara. Even if Taysom Hill throws Kamara a few passes, that's just not going to be enough. Tampa Bay -9.5. I love it. So once again, a quick recap before we wind down here. Arizona 13.5. Dallas 8.5. Buffalo 10.5. Miami 9.5. Cincy +2.5. Rams -6.5, Green Bay -5, Tampa Bay -9.5, and that is your 8 picks for the week. I hope you have a great weekend. I won some money last week. Hopefully you guys can win some money this weekend. Thanks again for tuning in.